What's up, you guys? I'm Robbie from the channel Refined Movement, and this is my Project Civic. But so recently I went ahead and took out the D15 B8 B7 hybrid that was in this thing. After a couple track days, man, it just gave up the ghost. So I went ahead and got this D16 Z6, and I've been prepping the bay, getting this thing ready to go back in. So I want to thank my friend Jon from Garage Built Hondas for giving me this platform to talk to you all. I'm doing the same for him on my channel. Although I've never met him in person, we're always talking on YouTube, and you know, I really hope to meet up with him someday, hopefully out on track. Thank you all so much for giving me this opportunity to talk to you, and hope to see you at Refined Movement.
So if you guys like what's going on over at my channel, go ahead and give Refined Movement a look. I think you'll really enjoy the content that they're putting out as well. But today we're going to get a little bit of work done on my 91 Civic Sedan LX. Got a couple new parts for it. I've been meaning to do some suspension work on this car as I haven't touched it in the longest time. If you saw maybe a month ago, I did that Skunk2 versus EF parts camber kit install video. That Skunk2 kit I had originally purchased for my sedan, so we're going to get that thrown on. I've never changed the rear compensator arm bushings. I did them on my 91 Civic Si, so I bought the same ones for the sedan. That way I can have a full urethane bushing kit on the car. I bought a brand new rack and pinion. This LX sedan was originally a power steering model. I removed the power steering components. You can't see it in here, but once I get into getting underneath the car, I'll show you how I still have the power steering rack on there. I just drained all the fluid. I pulled all the lines and components maybe about 5 years ago, and I've been driving it since. Granted, I don't drive the car a lot, but it still has been okay. But I just feel like it's time to replace that steering rack. This chassis has about 212,000 miles on it, if I remember correctly. 210, I'm sorry. A little bit shorter than I thought. So that's the original rack, I imagine. But I want to upgrade to the manual one, and I've been meaning to do so. I just didn't spend the time or money or effort to put it into this car. And then my suspension on this car. Currently it's on Skunk2 Sport Shocks with Skunk2 coilovers. So those ride really nice. I think the shocks are getting a little old. They still work, but I feel like the suspension doesn't ride as nice as it used to. So we're going to use, this is a setup I had on my Civic Si. The Tokikos are in really good shape, probably less than 3,000 miles on them. We're going to use those with the Skunk2 coilovers that are on my sedan now, and I'm going to put top hats on. I'm going to remove these colors, or at least delegate these to the rear of the car, and I have a couple black ones that I'm going to put on the front just to keep the engine bay looking nice. And then the ground controls and then the summit springs, I'll probably just set those aside and maybe save those for a different vehicle, or just maybe use them in the future if I decide to go on a different spring raid. And also wanted to share new wheels I got. Well, technically old wheels. These are a set of Enkei RP01s. These are 15x7 plus 35 offset. One of my favorite wheels ever, and I had the opportunity to purchase them a few months back for a very, very good price. Now, they're not in that good a shape in terms of the original finish. You see how it's chipping here along the edges. The paint that originally was on it just needs to be refinished. So if you had seen the wheels on my CRX, those were the Enkei CPS2s. I refinished those, and I plan on doing the same with these wheels. But I'm not sure if I'm going to stay with this color scheme. I might change up. I'm probably going to leave this line a color of some sort. I'm not sure if I'm going to stick with gloss black. But once I get the a little warmer temperatures out, and I'll get the chance to strip these and get these painted as well. And one other set of wheels I got. Now these are my new track wheels for my 90 Civic DX. I've been eyeing these on Tire Rack. They came out to about $630 shipped brand new. These are 15x8. They are plus 35 offset, and they weigh about 11.5 pounds, 12 pounds each. Flow formed. These are the Koseis. Really nice wheel. I ended up finding these on eBay for only $600 shipped, and they came with a really nice set of Yokohama S-Drive tires, which is perfect because I wouldn't use those for the track, but they have a ton of life left on them. So these tires will essentially go onto those wheels, and I will buy some new 225/45 tires for these wheels. So I'm excited with the upgrades for my sedan and the track car, but I also want to get these thrown onto my track car today. I'll do that sometime in the video after I finish all the suspension components. I've seen so many people running like TE37s, the Graham lights with the 15x8 plus 35. So I've never done it myself. I just want to see how well it fits, and I do have that negative camber on my track car. So I'm hoping they fit perfectly fine, especially with these tires that are just slightly stretched. This 205 on a 15x8. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on working on the sedan. I'm really not going to show you how to do much of this because I have shown you how to change the rack, the Skunk2 Camber kits before, the bushings, and the suspension. If you want to follow any of those, click in the upper corner. I have a complete 8891 CRX and Civic DIY list. You can find those in there. But I'm going to go ahead and get started and try to get these swapped out as soon as possible. Here's a look at the difference on the Skunk2 shortened shocks. I have them lined up at the bottom. You can see how the body of it is right here. See how it stops right there, and this one's a little longer? That's where the shortened shock is. That way when you lower it, it actually is more accommodating to the shock not blowing out faster. It's made to handle a lowered ride height. You can even see here at the top where it's a little shorter at the end of the piston. So some people like to put extended top hats on these Skunk2s. I feel like when you do, you have to be really low, because when I had an extended top hat on here, I could only go so high before the spring started compressing and preloading so much, and I could only raise it a certain distance. I was actually really low, so that's why I removed some top hats from this car, the extended top hats from this car, when I first had them on. On the rear on the sedan, I still have the extended top hats on. Now I'm going to be using Skunk2 coilovers on the Tokikos. Reason being, 8K translates to about 448 spring rate. This one's a 400, so we're going a little bit heavier on the front. Skunk2s on the rear are 6K, which equivalent to 336 pounds, and the Summits were 350, so there's not a big difference in the rear. We're just going a little bit stiffer up front. Now I'm not going to use the supplied new bushings that the Skunk2 came with. I had already installed an energy suspension kit on my car. I would much rather prefer to keep those on the car still. Let me give you a small kit if you're ever installing upper control arms. If you've ever taken the bolt out, make sure you always put them in from the outside ends of the arm to the inside. The reason I do that is just a safety precaution, because say for instance if the nut falls off, if this is reversed, the bolt could potentially wiggle its way out and your camber arm could fall off, or your upper control arm could fall out, whichever one you have on. But the orientation I have of the bolt, there is no room inside here. The bolt will shimmy itself up against the body of the car, but there's nowhere for it to come out. So in essence, the camber would still stay on, might have some vibrations and whatnot, but it will never be able to fully feed itself out. Whereas if it was on this side, I imagine driving and vibrating, it could just eventually wiggle out and fall out, because the nut, once it's there, it could easily fall out. So just a small little tip. Shocks look like they are done. That's probably one of the big reasons why the sedan didn't ride as well anymore. Let me go ahead and compress it. It is not moving at all anymore. It's not coming up. So obviously the shocks have, if it is, it's like very, very minimal, but these shocks are pretty much done. And here's a look at that power steering rack. A lot larger in diameter, and that's the hardest part about installing a manual rack onto a power steering car subframe. If you look at the size difference, this is an original bracket which goes on a manual rack. It's taken off of a CRX SI shell that I had. And this is the power steering one. Now the bushing that came on the power steering rack, it was solid on there. It didn't come in two pieces. So I had to cut it, and it ended up snapping in one part. But how we fix that is we go ahead and wrap the first bushing, the original manual rack bushing, around the manual rack and pinion, and then we're gonna put the larger one around there, and that'll solve the issue of using the smaller diameter rack on that power subframe. Let me show you on the back of the car so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Can you see in there? Yeah, let me show you. Right in there, that's where the rack bolts up to. If we use the smaller one, it's not going to fit because there's all this play within the bushing. So in a sense, that's why we're going to wrap it in there and get it bolted up together. Let me go ahead and reinstall it, and I'll show you exactly how that works out. Here's a look underneath. You can see with the manual bracket on there, let me see if it wants to focus. It's not really focusing that well. There we go. I have the energy suspension bushing on the inside and the original one on the outside, but that holds it perfectly into place. Now I've done this conversion once before. It had to have been 7-8 years ago on, it was a 91 Civic Sedan LX that I also had, a white one. Had it taken to get aligned, and I had no issues with that. And I had the car for about 3 years. So this manual rack will work perfectly fine as long as you have both bushings to hold it into place. They're not going to move. They're both tapered so they stick on the outside lip of the bracket. So that's what you need to do if you are converting to a manual rack on a power steering subframe on these EFs. Alright, so we got the front finished up. Coils on, the Tokiko shocks, Skunk2 kit, and the new rack and pinion. The only thing that's unfortunate is I ordered new tie rods. They didn't come in yet, but regardless, I'm not going to be able to finish the car completely today. And then when I get the tie rods in, I'll just swap them out real quick, and I'm going to get it aligned with all of the new components on the car. Now take a look at the difference in the rear shock from the very base all the way to the top. You can see that this one is excessively shortened comparatively to the Tokiko. So that one is a huge difference in retaining a good ride quality on a lowered car. And here you have the markings for 7-inch tall, 2.5 inner diameter. This shows the 6K on this rear Skunk2s. Okay, I got the rear coils on. Lastly, we're just going to throw on the compensator arms with the new Prothane bushings inside them. And after taking a better look at the tie rods, I think they're still both original. See how they both have the SH3 stamping on them? And they still, there's no movement in the joints, but obviously the boot's ripped there, and this one's falling apart as well. Alright guys, we got the tie rods finished up. Those came in. Let's get the wheels put back on. I'm going to adjust the coilovers and let's go get it aligned. Alright guys, it's a little windy out, so forgive me if the wind kind of overpowers my voice here and there. But I just got the car aligned and took it for a couple spins. Feels so much better now with the new shocks on there. Well, the new compared to the Skunk2 shocks. The Tokikos with the Skunk2 coilovers feel really nice. Ride straight again, and it handles so much better. Glad I got that taken care of. And if you want to see more of my sedan, tune in next week. I'm going to do a full walk around on the car. Just get a complete overview of all the parts installed and what this build consists of. I really enjoyed making the one of my 91 Civic Si, and want to make another one of this particular car now that I'm really happy with the way it's set up. And now that I'm done working on the sedan, let's get the Koseis put on the track car. Can't remember if I mentioned it earlier, but these are the K5R wheels. You can purchase them off Tire Rack if you're interested in getting a set. Reason I wanted them is I haven't seen really anybody with these wheels, and I wanted something different. Plus I just really like the way that they look with the split 5-spoke. Let me get those thrown on real quick and we'll check the fitment compared to my old 15x7 plus 40 track wheels. So here's a look at the front fitment. Front fitment is spot on, it looks like. Sticks out a little bit, but that's as low as the front is going to be. I still have plenty of clearance with this tire, and the 225/45 is actually a hair smaller in terms of height, the diameter of it overall. Now the rear fitment is a little different. The rear of my car is lower, and that's just because when we corner balanced it, obviously most of the weight on these cars is in the front. There's not a really good perfect weight distribution, so we had to go a lot lower in the back than we did in the front. So it is, you can see right here, it's obvious the difference, how far it sticks out. And I would probably encounter rubbing issues going around corners at this height. So obviously we're gonna need to raise it, and I'm gonna ask Tim, see if he can corner balance the car and keep it at a little bit higher ride height, so the front might even need to be higher. But I do really like the way that these look on the car. Sharp looking wheel, the 15x8 will probably just give me a little better grip with the 225 tire instead of the 205, that extra 20 millimeters, almost an inch in tire width. So we'll see how that feels. Let me know what you think of the new wheels. I'm very excited to try out those Koseis on the track car. We have our first track session on March 24th, so it's coming up shortly. I can't wait to get out there again. I've missed driving. It's been about 3 months since we last had our track event. I'm very excited about the Sedan, having it running and performing very well now. Those upgrades that I made to it, I probably should have done a long time ago. It's just that I don't drive the car maybe 800 to 1,000 miles a year just for leisure. Sometimes I'll take it back and forth to work. So it's nice to have it finally set up to where I'm very happy with the way the car runs. The B16 runs great. It's been in the car for the longest time. And now the suspension I feel like is up to par with the way it runs. Now I just need to maintain it, keep it clean, wax it, try to keep it protected from this crazy Texas sun we have. And lastly, what do you think of the guys think of the RP01 wheels? I think I'm going to maintain the black gloss finish. The little surrounding ring, the secondary ring, which is blue, I've been kind of leaning towards yellow as a color. It's similar to the Buddy Club wheels, how they did a matte black with yellow ring. I really like the way that looks. I want something to kind of stand out. I think the blue ring on the blue car is just gonna, I don't know if it's gonna really do much for it. I was also thinking red because it looks a little more like race inspired, but give me a couple ideas on what you guys think I should do with that, the centering ring. Well, not necessarily the centering ring, but the surrounding ring and then the center cap with the little blue lettering on it also. I'd love to hear you guys' opinions. And that wraps it up for today's video, guys. Hope you enjoyed the content. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you guys next time.